into the computer.
Welcome back
What is
to
this?
round 3, 4 of Wake Up and Think Clearly, where we were talking about so this pandemic. So
Well, I would refer to it more as a case study.
there's a correlation between the increased cases of death and the vaccinations.
Also, it's been an increase of the use of VARs as well, because a lot of that signal that's been produced is because the use of VARs has gone up by something like an order of 1,000 in terms of the number of reports. That
what kind of signal?
The increase of records of vaccine adverse events reports. The use of VARs is literally close, I think, by 8.5. Or it's like somewhere around 850% where it was in 2020. I'm going to place myself on mute, and hopefully more people pour in while I go attend to my wife for a bit.
Okay, VAERS. So there's an increase in the reporting of adverse effects of the vaccine in virus. So I'd have to look at the data, but so yes. So what's going on? I don't know. I want to know more. And yes, I did watch an interview of I think he was a virologist, and he's talking about these things. What did I get out of it? That it was not fully tested. The vaccines, they rushed it. Previous vaccines would take decades to get fully tested. But that interview was in early this year. And but now at least one vaccine has been FDA approved, and that would be the Pfizer, and then Moderna is coming up. It will probably get approved. So, welcome back, Domenico. So you were saying that being that I got out to do karaoke and now I'm back, and shouldn't I be quarantining myself to protect my mother, because I could be harboring the virus in my throat and not have any symptoms yet, so I should wear a mask near her, perhaps.
I guess, Jay, I want to give that as an example. You're going to do what you're going to do and say what you're going to say. If you value something, be true to yourself. So now, whether or not a vaccine that has a virus in it can help you health-wise, one has to know their own strengths and weaknesses. If you know you like karaoke and say somebody in your family was trying to tell you it's right or wrong to go, you have to respect yourself. How many people go to work when they have a flu? They do. So how many people get a flu shot but still get a flu? Because there's so many factors involved, whether it's your blood type, your environment that you go in, how your health is. So you say openly that I snuck out. If you had said I just went to karaoke, it would have been one scenario. But the fact that you snuck out, you're telling us. But If you value, if this is really about other people, then it would be, okay, so then where was I before the virus appeared? You know, if human wants to understand the psychology of oneself, forget about others, just care about oneself. If nobody really give a damn about each other, then we wouldn't create a vaccine, let alone cars. So there's something that you've shared in the past, you've done this because maybe somebody in your household kind of told you, but again, whether you're obedient or disobedient, you should always be able to question yourself and say, then why am I doing this? You know, especially if I know, it's like a person that says, I'm going to do a health program and I'm going to exercise, but they know themselves quite well and they know they won't be able to maintain it. So then who are you pleasing at that moment? You know, I was only using your mom as an example. It could be anybody. It could be your niece. It could be your friend. It could be whoever. If one values the concept of what a virus is or isn't, let alone the vaccine, let alone a mask. What's really I'm hearing is we're still being obedient without questioning. They tell me I got to wear a mask. They tell me I got to take a vaccine. They're telling me that the CDC says this, opposed to where's your input in all of that? Like, I'll give you an example. For me, I'll buy somebody else, I'll buy a car that I didn't create, and I'll buy some stickers that I didn't create, but putting them together, I get myself the illusion that I've made it personal with me, meaning that I bought the sticker from somebody else and I bought the car. I have to take the accountability that I know it's a privilege to own a car because I didn't create the damn thing. And if I did, then the question would be, how would I explain to everybody else how I created it? So in this case, the virus is no different. And really, the conversation, when I see people like all of us, you know, wearing a visor or wearing a mask, it just shows me over and over again, we're not really collectively wanting to grow. What we want to do is be very obedient, tell somebody else what they should or shouldn't do. You shouldn't take a vaccine, you should take a vaccine. That's the obedient and disobedient of humanity, opposed to questioning why would I do anything or be anything, let alone me telling me why I wouldn't. So for you to say that I snuck out because I really value karaoke, I think it would be better spent energy. You just tell your folks and say, listen, I really truly enjoy this and that. Well, do you really care about me? I said, well, then are you showing that you're caring about me, allowing me to do what I have to do? And it's a conversation, it's a private conversation, and then you can decide for whether or not, because I get it, people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to say, listen, because this is all about commerce. You know, if you want to travel, you want to buy groceries, you want to mandate this and that, those are just policies. And if people realize the religion that we're really following right now in this age is commerce, and it's probably in every age, we've always followed commerce, some sort of trading or whatever. Even Revelation, you won't be able to buy or trade. That's about commerce. This is not about health. Health is each individual, whether they succeed or fail. But then again, if I'm going to somebody else's restaurant or McDonald's or Burger King, I've given up. For me to say health is about me now. Because really, I can't complain to McDonald's, I'm just using them as an example, or Burger King or some fast food place or some Roadhouse, let alone my mother. Mom, I'm a vegetarian. I just want to make sure, is there meat in there? Why? I don't want to be surprised when I go to do number 2, regardless if I agree or disagree with what diet I choose to do. But this is how we consider each other. So in that moment, are you really considering your mother when you're going to karaoke? Or are you considering you? Now, there's rationally selfish, and then there's this, I'm just selfish. I'm ignorantly selfish. Again, I've yapped a lot, and I apologize. I even noticed ours trying to do the same thing where, we can go on to talk about all different kinds of biblical stories or whatever, but it really comes down to each individual person. Now, if you feel good knowing that you want to do karaoke, because you sent me videos and I think you enjoy it, but again, who created the karaoke box? Who created the concept? So really, we're always still in this program. They're just shifting it to another variations of it. And people will go out of chaos, start complaining to each other. And then of course they play this game, we'll make it religiously exempt from taking the vaccine. Okay, how that's gonna go well when the Muslims and Christians start going at it. Anyway, that's another story. So.
Very
a funny
good.
bunch.
So I was I was busy with Justin, our friend Justin Sinryu Williams in London. I was busy with him on Facebook, chatting back and forth. We must have chatted a lot. I produced hundreds and hundreds of back and forth posts in a group in Facebook. And we were kind of debating.
About, Jay, would you mind sharing since you brought it up? What were you guys, what was the debate about back and forth?
We were debating. I was debating, or I posited, or I said that the Buddha was a Hindu, and Justin, being that he's Buddhist and very precise in the Buddhist doctrine, well, there's no fixed Buddhist doctrine. It can vary from Buddhism to Buddhism, or from school to school. But he was saying that no, that is a lie. The Buddha was not a Hindu. The Buddha was against those Hindus of his time. Well, they called them Brahmanists or Brahmanism. They believed in the caste system, and the Buddha was against the caste. He was all inclusive. Well, and other things. I think the Brahmanists believed in like a pantheistic God, like everything is God. Ultimately, there's one God, but then he shows up as different kinds of gods, and so we get to choose what God we want to worship. But the Buddha said, no, let's not consider gods, and let's just think about what's happening in our mind, and let's watch our minds. And so out of that, after he passed away, it created a sect, and maybe it didn't go so well in India, so it went to China and Korea, Japan, Tibet, Southeast Asia. Yes. And now the West. But yes, I guess it's incorrect to say that the Buddha was a Hindu. Well, he was born in a Hindu environment. So he formed a kind of like Jesus was born in a Hebrew environment and kind of formed his own religion. Maybe he didn't intend to make it a religion. He just wanted to make some adjustments, maybe, and it became a religion with Paul.
So Jay, can I ask something like this out of curiosity? Because both of you guys weren't there, and I wasn't there, Joel wasn't there, and Randy wasn't there. If me and you both saw a big boulder falling off of a cliff, now we start writing about it, would not the fact that me and you aren't together, like meaning like literally in one, would you not have a different perception on how that boulder fell off the cliff? Now that boulder can be Jesus or Muhammad. So now I write a story on it. The fact that the person that was with me there, we're both witnessing it differently, wouldn't it expand even more into different stories? So now it's an individual person trying to compete with a group of people. Those group of people now have delusionally or illusionally spoke about how Jay a long time ago, that he no longer is alive, and we wrote many books on it, talked about how the boulder fell down. Then I, on the other hand, who wrote a book myself, and one individual follows me. Isn't those all stories we're giving each other? So the debate comes from the fact that you have your interpretation, how you read a book. You weren't there with the Buddha. And even if you were there with the Buddha, you or whoever he was at the time, regardless of what story he's doing, this is what we do. This is how theory works. We denounce each theory, but it doesn't make mine rise to the top unless it's, stinky theory. So now, how would you know what the Buddha said or didn't say? And even if you did, whose point of view are you looking at? Point of view. This is how we argue. What we're really doing is we're not openly revealing our own point of view. And that's what we're trying to convince others. This is how dogmas come to be. And it doesn't matter what dogma it is. I wasn't there in the Garden of Eden. And even that I can inquire. It's a story. What was the name of the garden? I'm still based on the fact that it's a story, regardless if Adam and Eve was there or Muhammad basically talked to Gabriel and said, listen, you don't know how to read or write. How do I know? This is why we always have to seek from within. If anything is ever inspired to be written or talked about, therefore only within. And even that's me talking the story. So how would you know if the Buddha said what he said way back then, let alone talking about how he walked down the path, or did he go to Shoppers Drug Mart, or did he go to Walmart? This is the game that we play with ourselves. Now you can change that with Jesus Christ. You can change that with democracy. You can change that with communism. You can change that with any words you want. And this is how we argue with each other on Santa Claus. Is he real? Well, Dad, I don't know who Santa Claus is, but how does he get down the chimney, especially when we have a gas fireplace? How does that work? You know what I mean? Now, as we get older, there was a story of Santa Claus, but you change the word around. Why does it inconveniently say Satan? I don't know. But then again, if I don't know, then it's my responsibility to know. And when I do know, then I have to have wisdom, discernment between what maybe a belief system I just kind of put aside for a minute so I can know, or maybe have understanding. This is how people become scholars, academics, and now they're saying, listen, I put way too much energy to really learn about game theory or learn a lot about, any kind of theory, gravity, let alone say, but I'm going to question, how do I know it's gravity? I don't know. And if I do know, am I going to write a book to convince other people? Really, who is the Buddha? And what was he? And let's say he's an external thing. What is he going to teach me that I've always been within myself? It's an inquiry, literally, hence prayer. You inquire. I'm just using words. And then you can go into silence, peace, and then you can meditate. You can finally listening. But if you don't do those things, then what are you really listening to? Your own rambling, that constant noise going on. Saying, well, you know something, Dominic, if I did this, how would that serve me? Okay, well, do I want to serve it? Do I want it to serve me? Or do I want to serve others? And even that, how do you know you're really truly serving others? It's all a pondering.
And how do we know? What we know is what we believe in. Like, I believe in this. And then how do we know that we believe in it? Like when we do something counter to what we believe, then do we say, oh, I didn't believe in it, or was it not a very good belief to believe in the first place? Is it possible to believe in nothing at all and live a good life by believing in nothing at all? What do you think, Joel?
Well, I think my dog doesn't believe in anything. He believes in getting fed, being petted, but he doesn't have, we believe, the same kind of mind that people have. But I tend to agree with what Dominic was saying, if I understood it, at least in the main. But I was just reading something here. The author did not act in the manner of the wise. One ought not to begin something that one is incapable of concluding. He begins by posing a difficult question, then remains with the difficulty and reverts to faith. It would have been better for him to have left it as a matter of faith for the innocent, instead of making them aware of the contradiction and leaving their minds in doubt.
What's the source of that?
The Ravid, Rabbi Abraham ben David, 1120 estimated to 1198. For those times, he lived a very long life. If his birth and death is accurate, 78 years. In the 1100s, that must be like about 400 today. So I found that to be, for whatever reason, among all the things I read, this stuck out at me. One ought not to begin something that one is incapable of concluding. So you should leave things as a matter of faith for people who are innocent of the confusion, that you don't better the world by pointing out contradictions to people who don't already have them. Someone has great faith and it doesn't resonate with your reasoning. Who do you benefit by engaging with them? Are you hoping that they will be able to transmit their faith to you, or you will transmit your anxiety to them?
Oh, I think we're trying to transmit our anxiety to them. For example, when I discovered that there was no Santa Claus, and I saw a younger person continuing on with the faith in Santa Claus,
Yeah.
I was distressed. And I said, how could they believe that there's a Santa Claus? Where now I am enlightened and I now believe in Santa. So I will install my doubt in Santa Clausism to that younger one and ruin his faith forever. And he'll be sobbing for the rest of his life and doubt his parent authority and fall into drug abuse as a teenager.
That's a bit of hyperbole, Jairo, but it's an interesting observation. And on behalf of those who persist in the belief in Santa Claus, I salute you as I go to the Colosseum to die.
I may have ruined somebody's faith in Santa Claus, whoever's listening to this. I apologize.
Right.
Somebody wrote something in the chat room. Great share, Joel. I took it to heart and mind. Oh, Domenico said so.
Well, I was just happened to be reading it, and I think of, I find more and more that silence, that old adage, silence is golden. When people are going on about their beliefs, usually people have a need to share their beliefs when they're very anxious about them, either because they're searching for affirmation, or you could speculate on the reasons, whereas one who is confident in what they see is often calmer and have no need or desire to share it unless people inquire. And it goes back to another saying that I have remembered: nothing becomes a man more than silence.
But what if the person who discovered that silence was golden, and he was the only person in the world that knew that silence was golden, and he kept it to himself?
Yeah, good point.
He'll be talking all the time, and there would no longer be silence. So in order to preach the new religion of silencism, he would have to go around and saying, listen to me, for I know that silence is golden. Therefore, you should all shut up.
Well, I guess the way I would respond to that is there's an African proverb that says, no one shows a child the sky. And the connection I make there is that if I see someone who's behaving in a way that I find enviable or admirable or honorable or whatever the word is that appeals to me, and I just see it, and I say, gee, that person is always quiet. And I know for myself, when I go into meetings, I find that the person who often speaks the least is the one I'm most interested in listening to.
Who would that be?
Well, it varies from time
Me
to time and place to place.
or Gyro? Who's being most quiet so I can listen to?
Central Plato philosophy hasn't said a word.
He's got his finger pointing somewhere.
He's pointing up to the sky.
Let's
But
listen
you
to
know that, I mean, there's reason. Today at the humanist meeting, they're having a discussion. Does humanism rely too much on reason? You know, maybe there are limits to reason, and, you know, just the fraternization of we people together whenever we can it's separate from whatever we may agree or disagree on. 85% of anything is just being there.
So what is reason? I reason that when we communicate something verbally and it falls upon the ears and discernment, then if it resonates with them, then they think that sounds reasonable. So reason is not absolute, it's relative. I should get a Nobel Prize for discovering the theory of relative reasonableness.
I don't think that's anything new.
Oh,
There have been tremendous treatises and essays on the limits of human understanding and of reason itself. So
learn to question things like reason, feelings, and senses and belief systems, even Luis Del Pinian knowledge. Things, not things. Laugh out loud. Yes, I wonder. Still, I wonder.
It's not maybe Santa Claus, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Hitler, aren't they all kind of characters? Could they all be a lie to ourselves or misleading ourselves? You know, if one's truly inquiring about the self, whatever that is to each individual person, it's a self-exploration, but unfortunately we try to reinforce it by going into groups, reading books, learning indoctrinating. I became a professor of philosophy. Okay, what does that mean to you? I've just spent years becoming a doctor. Okay, a teacher, what does that do for you? Or a physician, a healer, what does that do for you? You know, I'm even using the word, what does that do for you? Opposed to, did you become it? You know, so be it. You know, amen, so be it. You know, again, I'm just using words to play with words. You know, it's one of those things where people will challenge me. Well, Don, that's not what it means. I said, so then you're questioning me or are you questioning yourself? Because really, I just use the word. Should we not be questioning the word? Whether it's true or not, whatever truth is, or true in the sense like a wheel, is it true? You know, and if it is true, it will always be true. So am I saying that I'm not true? I don't know. I am fascinated by technology that we're slowly adapting into, but meanwhile, aren't we technology? The form that we're in, I could take a picture with an amazing camera, but yet don't I have a camera with my eyes? You know, this is again, I call it diarrhea or something, but anyway, it is what it is, you know. And I even heard today having a conversation with Louise. I'm like, it is what it is. I do hear myself and I'm like, what does that do for me? And Joel just shared something that was very true to my heart and my mind. It's kind of like, how would I try to share with other people if I'm aware of something? Like, are we doing rhetorics? I've been in some of the groups that you're talking about, Joel, the humanist, and a lot of them come under the disguise of being an atheist. Okay, what does it mean to be an atheist? And why are you only questioning religion? Why don't you question science or state or biology? This is, again, we've been so conditioned that we don't even know enough to question the condition. Who's my maker? Okay, my mother. I doubt it, but it came through her womb, because if I start talking to her, she would say, Dominic, yeah, I didn't really create you. Oh, you didn't? No, I was just a vessel. Okay, so then what am I then? You must be a vessel too. Again, I'm playing with words, and occasionally we have some, touchy moments where people will share a little bit more in depth, or at least show something more open. I can't even say in depth. I think we're all in the shallow end of the pool, and occasionally a couple of us in moments we dip our foot in it. I think if we truly are deep, then the question is, do we come back from it? What would we do if Joel is the Buddha, I'm Jesus, you're Muhammad, and Rami is the all-encompassing source? How would that conversation look like? Well, I had a bunch of people following me. Well, that wasn't my intent. Yeah, but I had no say in the matter anymore. What do you mean? Because most people are in words only. I'm a Christian. I'm a person that follows the Torah. I'm a Jew. I'm an Israelite. Democracy. We live in Canada, me and Joel. They're going to spend a lot of time yip-yapping about red or blue, liberal or conservative. But do any of them have anything to do with the majority of the citizens in Canada? No, not really.
Oh, Joel, if we are conditioned to believe what we believe, and we decide that this belief here, this particular belief causes this effect, and it causes suffering. So how do we uncondition ourselves to undo the condition and maybe the belief, so that we no longer cause that effect that is negative, that causes suffering? That's assuming we reasoned correctly and we figured out, oh, this is not suiting me. So how do I uncondition myself to not do it so it doesn't happen again? Is there something in the Bible, Rami, that will help us in unconditioning our condition?
Well, we're instructed to do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be renewed by, was it be remade by the renewing of your mind? I'll have to look up the exact quote. But first, though, you have to be willing to actually base your understanding of the Bible upon the Bible and not some second or third hand source or some manipulated version, because then you're no longer utilizing the Bible as the source, and that brings in a lot of unnecessary confusion. So let me see, I think it's Romans chapter 12, either verse 2 or 3.
Confusion could lead to doubt and loss of faith.
Yeah, don't speak unless you know what you're talking about. One thing.
You do it all the time.
I know, but I'm also self-corrective. So when I make a mistake, I do my best to experience. But it's best not to speak at all unless what you're saying is
If
provable.
you depend on the Bible so much, would you then have to ignore science and psychology and other religions, or can you look at the others?
Of course, I mean, I've got freedom to look at any of them. And the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., because he did have a doctorate, probably in Divinity, but he studied a lot of his probably undergraduate and also postgraduate work was in psychology. He was one of the first who was able to incorporate the science of psychology into his speeches, and that really advanced things for quite some
Was
time.
it Martin Buber?
No, Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, Reverend Doctor. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So living sacrifice, Romans chapter 12, the first two verses say this. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So much of the Bible is essentially about aligning with God, but not necessarily aligning with, because there's a lot of false gods, there's a lot of false prophets, there's a lot of warning against those, at least in the New Testament, and then the minor prophets. Actually, I don't know how you'd classify Ezekiel, because his work is pretty substantial, and he warns against them too. Actually, it goes back further, because in the Torah you'll find references saying, do not listen to the false prophet. How do you know that what you're hearing is true and not invented by yourself or someone else in order to steer you wrong, or to take you to some end that won't do you or anyone else any good? And in fact, by following, you quite likely can not only waste your time and energy, but could bring harm to others. How do we go about that? I think Joel put his was on the nose when he said it's about being quiet
And
studying. I would add and study the original source work.
Shut the hell up.
And what if a false prophet proclaims, do not listen to false prophets? And you know that he's a false prophet.
Then you can stop listening to him. Move on with your life.
But if he's a false prophet and he says, do not listen to false prophets, then what do you do?
Walk away.
You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away.
Oh,
So just, I'll give you one more, because the other meeting's going to start shortly. That angel that is appointed over conception is called night. And that angel takes the drop of semen from which a person will be formed and presents it before the Holy One, blessed be he, and says before him, Master of the universe, what will be of this drop? Will the person fashioned from it be mighty or weak? Will he be clever or stupid? Will he be wealthy or poor? But the angel does not say, will he be wicked or righteous? This is in accordance with Rabbi Hanina, who says, all is in the hands of heaven except for the awe of heaven, as it says. What does God want from you other than you should be aware of him and to love him and serve him with all your heart and all your soul? That's Deuteronomy 10:2. And now I got to have my porridge.
so that means, so if I were to interpret that, that's saying that all our conditions and what we were bestowed through our parents can be determined scientifically, and it's set in stone, but our ability to be wicked or wise is up to us, or something like that, right?
I'm not sure what it means, but last night we were in a Socrates Cafe in Denver, and they were talking about honor. What is honorable? And I don't know that you can give one definition. Honor would be dependent on the time and place and culture that you're in. For the Americans who were pulling out of Afghanistan, those 13 Marines and 70 civilians died for an honorable purpose, or that's how we keep our culture intact. And for the Taliban, killing them was an honorable thing, or for the ISIS K people, being a suicide bomber was an honorable thing. So I think it's the same with good and evil. You know, it's always, in my mind anyway, like Dominic was saying, I think it's dependent on the time and the place and the circumstance.
Yes. What do you think, Rami?
I don't know if killing others is an honorable thing.
Well,
I don't know if allowing yourself to be sacrificed towards the ends of a state is an honorable thing either.
What about self-defense? Where you have to kill someone in order to live? Is it honorable, or it's neither honorable or dishonorable, but neutral? It had to be done.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it always falls down to the specific instance. I mean, have you ever been in that position?
Oh, it feels like every moment there is something fearful that shows up, and so I defend myself from it. I push it away. Or where I'm driving, I see somebody on the road. Oh, he wants to get in front of me, so I slow down. Or if I'm getting on the ramp, things like that. There's always something that seems dangerous. And so I must try to avoid those dangers. So that's kind of like self-defense. And I'm saving a life, my own life.
Well, I mean, that's being responsive. And of course, we always want to have right response. And we don't want to overburden ourselves so that we wind up producing wrong response, because wrong response can be deadly when you're on the road, right? Not only to yourself, but to bystanders.
Oh, less than a minute left. Should we make this one the last one?
Sure.
Go to a
That's
second
fine
one.
with me. Yeah, because Joel won't be here.
And maybe I should eat breakfast.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah, I think we're talked out, guys. It was good to see you. Nice to know that Florida's still there. A lot of Canadians are revisiting whether they're going there this winter again.
Oh, Joel, let me give you a status update.
Yeah, please.
I and my wife, we caught a cold. I think my wife got it before us, and we're not exactly sure where the origin was. One possibility is there was a couple. I know that the guy was a Vietnam vet, and his wife, they had moved out of their house and they'd stuck a bunch of things on their curb, starting with a